Hope you guys are all okay and all good. Welcome to another video. My name is George. For those of you who don't know, feel free to subscribe down below if you're not already. And this is a video that I already tried to make once. This is going to be my A to Z of LGBTQIA plus books. I did one of these many years ago, and it's one of my most viewed videos on this channel, and I've seen loads of people do A to Zs of queer books since then. So I think I'm the originator of a tag, which I never thought would happen in my life. So that's the thing, and it's really cool watching everyone else's videos. And I decided I wanted to make another one because there are a lot of people who have made more than one. So I sat down and I made a new list of queer books that I wanted to talk to you all about. So 26, is that how many letters are in the alphabet? So here are 26 LGBTQIA plus books for you to sink your teeth into. I am wearing a lovely queer t-shirt that I got from Hollister. I'm ready to go. I've already tried to make this video once. I sat down after I made this list and I made the video and then got the footage into my computer only to see that the light had failed me and that it was grainy as hell and I couldn't use it. So this is coming through a second time and hopefully will still be decent and I won't have like used up all of my good words when I did it last time. So grab yourselves a cup of tea and a biscuit, treat yourself, and let's get into this list. So for A, I have Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is a graphic novel based on two characters, Nick and Charlie. In my previous A to Z of LGBTQIA plus books, I talked about the ebook Nick and Charlie, which was a spin-off of Solitaire, which is Alice Oseman's debut novel. There were two characters in that were like side characters, and so she wrote like a little ebook about their story while Solitaire was happening. And this is the graphic novel that Alice has been drawing for quite a few years now, about how Nick and Charlie met and how they fell in love. This is the first volume. The second volume came out over summer and there's a third and fourth on the way. It is all available online. I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. But this is a wonderful, incredibly sweet and gentle love story that just makes my heart feel so full. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It looks like Linda Evangelista. It's a model. It's an incredible story and I love it with my big gay heart. So this. For B, I have My Brother's Husband by Gengoroh Tagame. My Brother's Husband by Gengoroh Tagame is a manga about a man called Yaichi who is a suburban dad in Tokyo. He lives with his daughter Kana and their lives are turned upside down when Mike, who is the husband of Yaichi's estranged twin brother Ryoji, shows up out of the blue, wanting to find out more about Ryoji's life. It's a gorgeous and quite heartbreaking story that kind of shows how some of Japan is still quite closeted and still kind of developing, but how the younger generation is kind of dealing with it a lot better than the older generations are. It's a really, really sweet story. This is the first volume that I've read. I've not read the second one yet, which is now out, I believe. And it's just stunning, really, really quite beautiful, and like an insight into how another culture deals with homosexuality. Or C, I have Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. There is no way I could make this list without having this book on there because it's been such a huge book in the last couple of years because of the film with Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet. I really, really love this book. It is a sweet romance set in the Italian Riviera. I'm not about to tell you it's not problematic because there are parts of it that are, but I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the audiobook of this, which was actually read by Armie Hammer. It is a stunning book. The writing in it is absolutely gorgeous. Like occasionally it's a bit overwritten, like there are times when it's like some parts of it go on for a little bit too long, but like for the most part it's just really freaking gorgeous. I mean, peach scene aside, it's a bloody lovely book. Like, and the film was actually really good as well. I really enjoyed the film. I think this is quite a divisive book. I think a lot of people loved it and there were a few people that really, really like were not keen. I'm one of the people that really, really loved it. I thought it was absolutely stunning. So yeah, big recommend from me. I thought it was gorgeous. I want to read it again now. I still have the audiobook, I can do that. For D, we have Diary of a Drag Queen by Crystal Rasmussen. I mentioned this book in a recent reads wrap up. I listened to the audiobook of this, which is read by Crystal. It's written in diary format and follows a year in the life of drag queen Crystal Rasmussen. And it charters their life from when they're living in New York and working in the fashion industry all the way to being back in the UK, finding love, figuring out life, how to like just like be a creative in London and how to like survive. It's brilliant. It's so funny. It made me absolutely howl with laughter. I really loved it. Obviously that's why it's on this list, but I think it's absolutely cracking. Yeah, and it's a memoir, in case that wasn't clear. It's a memoir. For E, we have At the Edge of the Universe by Shaun David Hutchinson. I'm a big fan of Shaun David Hutchinson. I feel like I start every discussion I have about Shaun David Hutchinson by saying I'm a big fan of Shaun David Hutchinson, despite having only read 2 of his books, this and The 5 Stages of Andrew Brawley. I have We Are the Ants up on my shelf, and I should probably read that sooner rather than later. He's also had 2 books out since this one. I'm behind, but I think he's amazing. At the Edge of the Universe is about 2 boys, Tommy and Ozzy, who have been boyfriends for the longest time. Best friends, boyfriends, all of that jazz. Until one day suddenly Tommy vanishes. But he doesn't just vanish. He doesn't just vanish from Ozzy's life. He vanishes from everyone's. He vanishes from everyone's memory, and no one has any idea who Tommy even is. And Ozzy is trying to navigate his life without Tommy in it. When he gets partnered with, I've forgotten his name, what's the character's name? He gets partnered with a guy called Calvin for a physics project. Physics. He gets partnered with a guy called Calvin for a physics project, and Calvin seems to know a lot more about this than Ozzy first realised, and he thinks that Calvin knows more about where Tommy could possibly be. So it's that. It's very high concept, it's very cool, it's very queer. I love it a lot. For F, we have The Great American Whatever by Tim Federle. Yes, we're playing fast and loose with the alphabet in this one, loves. This is the story about 16-year-old Quinn Roberts, whose life has not been the same since his sister died in a car accident. He's basically stopped participating in life. He has just completely checked out. That is until his best friend Jeff comes to his house and drags him out to a college party where he meets a hot guy. And he starts to finally participate in his own life and kind of finally see a way through the mire of what his life has been quite recently. It's fantastic. It's so voicey. It's a gorgeous voice. It's so funny, and like it's the first Tim Federle thing that I'd ever read, and it reads so well. Do you know what I mean? Like when a voice just jumps off the page at you, that's this kind of book. So yeah. For G, we have The Gender Games, The Problem with Men and Women from Someone Who's Been Both by Juno Dawson. This book is part memoir, part thesis statement on the trouble with gender, essentially, and how it's basically screwing everybody over. It covers a lot about Juno's life, it covers a lot about her transition, but also has a lot of little bits in there from experts on gender and queer theory. So it's a really interesting book. I listened to the audiobook of it, which is read by Juno. And if you've ever been to a book event that has Juno Dawson at it, you'll know what an incredible personality she is, and that really comes across on the page and in the book. So with her reading it, it's even better. It's an absolutely cracking book. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. It's just really great and really funny and fun, and kind of, while it's dealing with something that's quite serious and quite a serious topic, it does it with like a lightness of touch that I would absolutely expect to come from Juno Dawson, who is amazing. Juno Dawson, by the way, for those of you who don't know, she didn't just write this, she's also the author of Hollow Pike, Cruel Summer, Say Her Name, Under My Skin, Margot and Me, Clean, Meat Market, This Book is Gay, Mind Your Head. Have I missed one? Now I'm going to look at my shelves. All of the Above! Oh my god, All of the Above is such a great book. I should have mentioned All of the Above in this. Anyway, Juno is a young adult author primarily, but this was a non-fiction title of hers, and it's amazing. So there. For H, we have History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera, which I cannot believe I do not have a finished copy of. What is wrong with me? I read this a couple of years ago, right before I went on holiday to Disney World. This was a very long time ago, and there was a full review at the time. I don't know if it's still on my channel at this point. But this is about a boy called Griffin, whose ex-boyfriend Theo drowns, and he doesn't quite know how to cope with it, and his entire world just falls apart and he can't deal with it. Even though Theo had moved to California and Theo is seeing someone else, it still really like cut Griffin up an awful lot. And the only person who understands is Theo's new boyfriend Jackson. So it's him sort of connecting with Jackson and trying to figure out a way through grief. I loved this book so much. It hurt me so much to read it. Like, I remember standing on a train reading this book and already feel like I was grieving for these characters and going through what they were going through. It's so incredibly well written. It's absolutely brilliant, and I think it's Adam's best book so far. I've not read Infinity Sun, and I've not read What If It's Us, but I've read his solo books. Infinity Sun's not out yet, so I'm allowed to have not read it, I think. But I think this is his best so far. I think it's absolutely amazing. So yes, this. For we have Introducing Teddy by Jessica Walton. This is a picture book. I don't get picture books sent to me very often because I'm not a picture book reviewer, nor do I have children. However, this one got sent to me by those gorgeous lovelies over at Bloomsbury, and I loved it. It's about a boy called Errol and his toy Teddy called Thomas, and Thomas is going through a little bit of turmoil because Thomas is trying to figure out, Thomas the Teddy is trying to figure out how to tell Errol that he wants to be called Tilly, and navigating that, and whether or not Errol will still love Thomas as Tilly, whether Errol will still love them the same. It's gorgeous, it's very, very sweet, it's beautifully illustrated by Dougal McPherson, and I just think it's a really lovely way of introducing those kind of concepts to younger readers. It's one of the books that I can't believe it's not being talked about more often. For J, we have The Last Romeo by Justin Myers. I read this book last year and did a full review on my channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. It is an absolute belter. It is about a guy called James who is 34 years old, and his 6-year relationship has just ended out of absolutely nowhere. And so he is feeling like shit. And on top of that, his best friend Bella is moving to Russia. So he is going through it, deciding that he needs to kind of do something about it. And encouraged by his friend Bella, he decides to start dating again. And he starts blogging about it under the guise of Romeo. So blogging all of these like catastrophic dates that he has with many people. And it goes a little bit viral, especially when he dates a closeted Olympian, and then everything goes a bit nuts. It's funny, it's witty as hell. I loved it so very much. I listened to the audiobook because it came out on audio and before it came out as a paperback. It's so fantastic. I'm so excited for Justin's next book, which I believe comes out next year. I think he's brilliant, and if you follow, and you should follow the Guyliner on Twitter and sign up to his mailing list as well, because he puts a newsletter out. I feel like it might be like weekly or maybe bi-weekly, I don't know, but he puts out a newsletter and it's brilliant. His most recent one was about gymming, or gym intimidation, which was really, really interesting to me. But yeah, The Last Romeo. For K on this list, we have Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. This is a middle grade title about a boy called Darius who is not okay. Darius is going on a family trip to Iran. He does not want to go. He does not know enough about his culture there, and he just doesn't really want to go. But when he goes there, he meets a boy called Sarab. Sarab is super duper nice to him, buys him a new football kit, makes sure that all the people on the football team speak in English so that he can understand what they're saying, and is just really, really lovely to him. It's such a gentle little book, a gentle little gay book. It was a little bit slow to get going, I'll be completely honest, but I really, really loved it. It was so, so sweet, and just really tender and gentle and nice. Like, it wasn't, because it's middle grade, so it's kind of targeting a completely different audience, but it was absolutely stunning, and I thought it was great. For L, we have Last Seen Leaving by Caleb Roherig. I do not understand for the life of me why more people are not talking about this book. I read this a while ago and I still think about it quite regularly, about like how I can't understand why people aren't talking about it more. Last Seen Leaving by Caleb Roherig is gay Gone Girl. You remember when Gone Girl was a really big thing? Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. That is a hard thing to say very fast, but Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, when that was a big thing, when the film came out and it was like the biggest thing since sliced bread. This is the gay YA version of that, and it is amazing. Last Seen Leaving is about a boy called Flynn whose girlfriend January has vanished. Bear with it. Everyone is asking him where she's gone, and obviously as her boyfriend he should know. But Flynn has secrets of his own, and while he is uncovering January's secrets, he is having to face his own. It's so good. Like, so, so good. And so twisty-turny, you will not guess where it's going. It's brilliant. Caleb Roherig is brilliant. And I need to read White Rabbit and Death Prefers Blondes. I think he's amazing and so, so funny. And this book is absolutely fantastic. And if you're into thrillers, it's one for you. It's cracking. For M, we have The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. This I listened to the audiobook of and had my heart ripped out of my chest. It's such a brilliant book. This cover by Penguin, BT dubs. This is not the same as the US cover, but Penguin did an absolutely cracking job on this. It's Instagrammic as hell, and I love it. I think it's gorgeous. This is about a girl called Cameron Post who, on the night her parents die in a car crash, she was actually off kissing a girl, and she feels intensely guilty about that fact. She's put into the care of her aunt, who is super duper conservative, who, when she realizes that Cameron is a lesbian, sends her off to conversion camp. It's quite heartbreaking. It's quite intense. But what you have in this is a gorgeous cast of characters who are like a gorgeous cast of queer characters who are just trying to survive. It's a brilliant book about surviving as a queer person. It's so good. I really, really loved it. So that. For N, we have Naturally Tan by Tan France of Queer Eye fame. I listened to the audiobook of this quite recently. This is Tan's memoir, which basically charters his entire life from when he was growing up in the north of England to when he started his like fashion empire, to when he went off and seemed to accidentally get a job on one of the biggest shows to come out of Netflix ever. Very, very funny. It's very much written in his voice, which is why it's so funny, because you can hear him saying it. There are style tips throughout which have stayed with me since I've finished the book. Things about like, if you like an item of clothing, buy it in several colors, or buy another one so you never are without it. And when it comes to there is no perfect pair of jeans. So many little bits and pieces of wisdom in here, but it's great. It's funny. It's a great insight into his life. I wanted more insight into his life, if I'm entirely honest, but that's because I'm greedy. But I thought this was great. So this was sent to me by Penguin Platform as part of the Pride Book Club. Just as a disclaimer, but that does not mean it influences the way that I talk about it. I thought it was brilliant either way. For O, we have Jack of Hearts and Other Parts by L.C. Rosen. This is the sex-positive older brother of Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is about a boy called Jack Rothman, who is 17 years old. He loves makeup, he loves partying, he likes boys. He has a very active sex life, which is a big topic of conversation at his school, but he doesn't really care. He's just very like, he has sex because he enjoys sex, so why not? He then starts writing an online sex column as part of his friend's journalistic projects, and that is when he starts getting these funny little notes posted through his locker, notes that are not all that kind, and things start to get a bit intense for Jack. This was surprisingly a bit more of a thriller than I thought it was going to be, if I'm entirely honest. When I was reading it, I expected it to be something. I think I got what I was expecting near the beginning, and then it turned into something completely different, and I was like, oh, well, this is interesting after all, isn't it? Because not only is it like a super voicey, brilliant, sex-positive, queer YA novel, it's also like part thriller. I couldn't guess where it was going, and that's what made it so brilliant. And it's just so well written, and it's so funny. So it's a cracking book. I really recommend it. I'm completely obsessed with it, and it needs to do well. Again, this was sent to me as part of the Pride Book Club by Penguin Platform. However, I read it before then, so there's no influence here whatsoever. They just sent me a copy of the book, so now I can do this while I'm showing it to you. Next up on this list, we have Physical by Andrew McMillan. This is a collection of queer poetry that is a celebration of the body and sex and the act of being physically intimate with someone. I don't often read poetry. I don't often read poetry collections, but this is one that was being read by Simon Savage over at Savage Reads, who I absolutely love. If you're not subscribed to him, you definitely should be, because he's way better at this than I am. Hi Simon, if you're watching this. Also, he's brilliant, so you should be subscribed to him. But he was reading it and saying how amazing it was. And so I bought it and I read it and was completely bowled over by it. Like, it's just so like, you know, when words manage to get under your skin, it was that kind of feeling. And that's why it was so great, is that it was so just like digging into you. It was absolutely cracking, and I really, really enjoyed it, if that's the right word. I sort of dipped in and out of it like over the course of a couple of weeks, which was kind of nice, because then it gave a chance for like the poems to really like settle on me. Do you know what I mean? Next up, we have Queers by Mark Gatiss. This is a collection of monologues that were originally performed on BBC4 as they were commissioned to mark the anniversary of the 1967 Sexual Offences Act, which decriminalised homosexual acts in private between two men over the age of 21. They were broadcast in 2017. I picked this up because I saw it in Gaze the Word, and I thought, oh, that, and I'm like, when I wanted to read some like plays and stuff, and this really interested me. It is a collection of how many monologues? 8 monologues altogether, all of which are written by different people and are about sexuality in a different way. If you're looking for a monologue, have a look. I've not actually had a chance to watch these yet. I do believe they are all on YouTube somewhere. Like if you just Google Queers by Mark Gatiss on YouTube, most of them I think come up. So if you want to have a look at them, you can. Next up we have Release by Patrick Ness. I am a huge fan of Patrick Ness. I feel like that's not a secret. I've not read his most recent book yet, which is called And the Ocean Was Our Sky. I've not read it yet because I was doing an MA and I didn't have time to read, so I need to buy that and read that because he's amazing and I pretty much love all of his books. The Chaos Walking trilogy is one of the best trilogies of all time. He also wrote More Than This and A Monster Calls, which is probably the most famous one at this point. The Rest of Us Just Live Here, and his one before, his most recent one, which is called In the Ocean Was Our Sky, is Release. This is about a boy called Adam Thorne whose life is about to be completely turned upside down. It's told over the course of a day in Adam's life when his entire life is about to change. I don't want to say anything more than that because I don't want to give anything away, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book, and Patrick Ness is amazing. Patrick Ness is an incredible writer, and this is an absolutely gorgeous book, and that's all I'm going to tell you because it's just good and you should go and read it. It's absolutely brilliant. And also look at that spot UV. Ooh. It's a stunning book. It's a really, really stunning book, and I love it to pieces. For S, we have Girl Hearts Girl by Lucy Sutcliffe. I was part of the blog tour for this a number of years ago. This is Lucy Sutcliffe, who is a YouTuber, or was a YouTuber. I don't know if she still makes videos. This was her memoir that is published by Scholastic. This is about Lucy's life and basically her coming out story, essentially, and how she met someone who she fell in love with, and their life together, and how it kind of sparked this kind of YouTube life that she had at the time. It's brilliant. It's a gorgeous coming out narrative. I don't know whether the video is still on my YouTube channel. If it is, I will link it down below, but if not, just trust me when I say that whether or not you're a fan of Lucy Sutcliffe's videos, it's a really, really sweet book. It's very gentle, it's very hopeful, it's very lovely. This. For T, we have Holding the Man by Timothy Conograve. I read this book a number of years ago and was completely obsessed with it. So obsessed, in fact, that I also read the play that was written based off this book. There's also a film that I've not read because I'm scared the film will ruin it. But this is the memoir of a man called Timothy Conograve, growing up in the 1980s in Australia, going to a Catholic school, surrounded by very homophobic ideas. But this is about his life and him falling in love with John Callio. Basically his life and trying to get his life during the AIDS epidemic and the AIDS crisis. It's a little time capsule of a moment in time, and it's an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous book that made me absolutely ache. I thought it was so beautiful, and Tim isn't perfect, and that's, I think, it's a memoir, and there are times when it feels like fiction, but then something happens and you realise that Tim isn't perfect. Tim is just another human being. I think the thing that actually I found really quite upsetting is finding out that Tim had died. Like quite a while ago now, and I don't know why. It just didn't occur to me that he would have died. But like, it's such a stunning book. It's really, really great, and I really recommend it. And also, I got a really, really nice edition of it off the Book Depository. I don't even think, actually, do you know what? I'm not even 100% sure that it is in print in the UK at the moment, which is really, really irritating, because it's such a cracking book. And this is something that I went off about before. This was a long time ago. I went off about this before because people were talking about how coming out books are over. And my response to that is, books don't stay in print forever. Just because you're okay doesn't mean everyone else is. But that's a story for another day. I'm really sad that this isn't in print because I don't think it is. But you can still get it on the Book Depository because I think this came from Australia. But it's amazing. So this. Oh, we're nearly there, you guys. We're on the home stretch. Next up, we have Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. This is a graphic novel that I do not have a physical copy of because I read most of it on the internet. This was originally posted online and it was published as a physical book by First Second, I believe, which is a graphic novel imprint of Macmillan, I think. I could be wrong about that. Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu is about a hockey team. Stay with me. It's a story about a boy called Eric Bittle, who is a figure skating champion, baker and vlogger, who goes to a university in Massachusetts called Samuel University, and while he is there he joins the hockey team, and also happens to fall in love a little bit. It's gorgeous, it's sweet, I love it a lot. I've still not finished it because I don't want it to be over, but it is all available online as well as being available in physical format, so I'll leave links to that in the description box below. Can't even get my words out because it's so near the end of the video and I've been talking for like an hour. For V, we have The Velvet Rage by Alan Downs, growing up gay in a straight man's world. I think that's what the rest of the title is. I could be wrong about that. I listened to the audiobook of this quite a while ago. It's because it was used a lot as a reference point in the Gender Games by Juno Dawson, which is obviously also in this list. It was used a lot as a reference point, so I decided I'd give it a listen and see what it was like. It was a lot of kind of snippets of stories about what it's like to grow up gay surrounded by straight people. I remember seeing a lot of criticism at the time saying that, like, it didn't like people didn't relate, which I kind of get, but also like parts of it relates to me, other parts didn't relate to me. It's a very interesting thing to read as a gay man, and I think there's still value in it, despite parts of it being quite outdated. So, which is why it's in this list. I think it's a really valuable book and a part of the queer canon. So yeah, The Velvet Rage. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's kind of hard to describe. It's a non-fiction book, so it's all about queerness and what it's like to be gay. It is specifically tailored towards gay men though. So there should be at least a lesbian or bisexual equivalent somewhere, but The Velvet Rage is on this list. For W, we have Alex in Wonderland by Simon James Green. Oh, look at it getting all sparkly in the sun. This is a YA novel from the author of Noah Can't Even and Noah Could Never. It is the story of a boy called Alex who lives in a small seaside town that is sort of in the middle of being gentrified, and his best friends have just hooked up, and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do with his summer. It's in the summer between his GCSEs and his A-levels. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life, and he stumbles quite literally into the amusement arcade, the little rundown amusement arcade on the seafront called Wonderland, and stumbles into a job there. What follows is much hijinks, him falling in love with somebody who I won't mention, and yeah, it's a really sweet, romantic, funny, quirky, odd YA novel. There is a full review of this on my channel, so I won't waste any more of your time talking about it, and I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. For X, we have Proxy by Alex London. This is a YA dystopian novel about a boy called Sid who is a proxy, which is essentially his life is not his own, and he is basically the whipping boy of a guy called Nox who lives in like the upper echelons of this world. Whenever Nox does something wrong, Sid is the one that gets punished for it, which is obviously terrible. When Nox crashes a car and kills someone, Sid ends up being branded and sentenced to death. When they meet, they decide the only way that they can save each other is to run, and what follows is like a cross-country thing to get away from the government. It was a brilliant book. It was pacey as all heck. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I have the sequel on my shelf. That's how much I liked it, that I went back to Goes the Word, like I think a few weeks after I finished it, and bought the sequel. Penultimately on this list, we have You Know Me Well by Nina LaCour and David Levithan. US and UK covers, both of which stunning. This is about a boy called Mark and a girl called Kate. It is told in alternating perspectives, and it is told during the week of San Francisco Pride. Mark and Kate have sat next to each other in a maths class. Can't remember. Mark and Kate have been sat next to each other in a class at school for years upon years and never even really noticed each other until their lives collide at Pride. Ooh, rhyming. And they end up helping each other through their various romantic problems. It's super sweet. It's super funny. It's really fun. It's set at Pride. It's really queer. It's great. And it was my first introduction to Nina LaCour as a writer, and she's brilliant. So I'm really excited to read more of her work. So I really want to read some more of her books. So if any of you have read any Nina LaCour, feel free to recommend to me in the comments below. And last but by no means least, we made it to the very end, is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. See? Mackenzie. Z. We're at the very, very end. This is the story of a man called Henry Monty Montague, who is a bit of a bounder and a bit of a cad, and is a big fan of having sex with men and women. But he is about to come of age, and his dad is determined for him to take over the company and the estate and to be a proper man. So he is going off on this European tour, and it's kind of his last hurrah. But after he does something not very good, him, his sister Felicity, and Percy end up on the run. They end up part of this giant plot in this like running across Europe situation. It's so brilliant, so funny, fantastic, super voicey YA, which is kind of seems to be what I'm into, at least if this list is anything to go by. It's a cracking book. I really, really enjoyed it. Everyone was raving about it, and I thought, fine, I'll give this a try. And then I read it and loved it. The sequel is also great, which is called The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. There you go, a bonus one for you. You are welcome. And that's the end of this video. We made it to the end. This video was so long. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to put a like on this and to subscribe down below. I mean, this has been a marathon for me. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I still have to edit it. If you did enjoy that, feel free to comment down below and let me know which of these books you have read and which of these books you have not read and which sound the most exciting to you. Also, feel free to offer me some more recommendations down below, because my last A to Z of LGBTQIA plus books had so many recommendations on it. If you're looking for queer book recs, oh my god, you should just go and look at that video, because the comments are absolutely teeming with book recommendations. I don't think any of which are on this list, which is really bad. But trust me when I tell you that I have taken the book recommendations off that one, and I have probably purchased quite a few of those books as it happens. But yes, that is the end of this video. I love each and every one of your faces. If you made it this far, feel free to comment the rainbow flag emoji down below, or a rainbow emoji, because I'm proud of you for getting this far. I'm proud of me for getting this far. I love each and every one of your faces, and I'll speak to you as soon as I possibly can. Bye!